I was halfway through saving a $480,000 client contract that our CEO had nearly torpedoed with his innovative approach to vendor relationships when Austin Walsh burst into the operations floor, grinning like he'd just discovered sliced bread. "Another crisis averted by our very own Bob," he announced, slapping my shoulder like we were old drinking buddies instead of two guys who'd never agreed on a single thing since he took over 18 months ago. Honestly, where would we be without him? I knew exactly where they'd be. Bankrupt. You'd be filing Chapter 11, Austin, and somewhere in that Stanford MBA brain of yours, you know it too. Name's Bob Patterson, I'm 48, and I've been keeping this place running since before most of these kids could spell operations. I muttered something polite and turned back to my screen, because that's what I do. I fix things. I make broken processes work, and inexperienced executives look competent. My inbox was a graveyard of vendor disasters and supply chain nightmares that I'd quietly solved without so much as a thank you email. Like clockwork, credit would flow upward to someone who once asked me if ISO certifications were something we bought on Amazon. Nobody at Innovate Tech Solutions noticed what I actually accomplished, but somebody outside these walls was paying attention. 3 weeks earlier, I'd posted a brief update on LinkedIn. Successfully restructured legacy client delivery system, improving efficiency 28% and recovering $480K CR in at-risk annual revenue. That was it. No company name, no drama, just facts. Internally, it got zero acknowledgement. But externally, I got 3 private messages, 2 from headhunters, 1 from someone much more interesting. Harold Morrison from Pittsburgh Steel Capital, our lead investor. "Impressive operational results. Would appreciate hearing more about your manufacturing insights over coffee sometime." I didn't reply immediately. At my age, you learn to think before you leap. That message sat in my inbox for 4 days. Blinking like a warning light, I wasn't sure I wanted to acknowledge. Harold Morrison wasn't just any investor. He was the guy whose fund had pumped $8.2 million into us during our Series B round. Back at work, I was the go-to fix-it guy. Marketing botched a client presentation? Call Bob. Sales screwed up a renewal? Get Bob. The CTO's new roadmap was literally a PowerPoint with 6 bullet points and a clip art arrow. You guessed it, Bob's problem now. But no raise, no promotion, no budget for my department. When I brought it up during my annual review, Austin gave me that $1 million smile and some garbage about being the operational backbone and how they didn't want to disrupt my effectiveness with a administrative overhead. Translation: keep doing 3 jobs for the price of 1 and don't ask questions. So I stopped asking. I stopped hoping for internal recognition and started documenting what I actually delivered. LinkedIn became my professional journal, not whining or complaining. Just clean, factual updates about real work. Process improvements that saved money. Client relationships that prevented disasters. The kind of operational excellence that doesn't make headlines but keeps companies alive. Implemented predictive maintenance protocols, reducing equipment downtime from 26% to 12% across all production lines. Restructured vendor payment cycles, improving cash flow by $180K quarterly, while maintaining all supplier relationships. Developed cross-training programs that eliminated single points of failure in critical manufacturing processes. Nobody inside the building cared, but people who understood manufacturing operations were taking notice. A like here from a former Caterpillar executive, a comment there from someone with board member in their title. The kind of professionals who don't engage unless they mean business. One post got particular attention. 25 years in manufacturing operations has taught me that sustainable growth requires operational foundation, not just funding rounds. The companies that last are built on process excellence, not PowerPoint presentations. Within hours, I had responses from 3 different manufacturing executives, including one who ran operations for a $400 million industrial firm. "This hits the nail on the head," he commented. "Too many young leaders think they can innovate around fundamentals." I kept posting once a week, always after hours when the young guns were too busy playing ping pong to pay attention. Started seeing patterns in who was responding. Managing directors, private equity partners, industrial veterans who knew the difference between operational excellence and marketing fluff. Harold Morrison liked my post about how equipment reliability beats flashy upgrades every time. Patricia Kellerman from Steel City Industrial Partners commented on my piece about knowledge transfer and succession planning in manufacturing environments. These weren't random likes. These were signals from people who controlled serious money. One liked my update about sustainable process improvements. Another reached out after I wrote about protecting manufacturing continuity during leadership transitions. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore, not to them anyway. To Austin, I was still the reliable old-timer who made his bad decisions disappear. He'd stride through the operations floor in his $200 sneakers, pointing at equipment he couldn't operate and talking about optimization opportunities while I quietly fixed whatever crisis he'd created the week before. I remember the exact moment I knew this wasn't going to last much longer. During our quarterly all-hands meeting, Austin was pontificating about lean operations and efficient resource allocation. He called us disruptors and said we were revolutionizing industrial automation. Meanwhile, I hadn't taken a real vacation in 16 months, because every time I tried, something caught fire and they'd call me back. That night, I updated my LinkedIn headline, Turning Operational Chaos into Manufacturing Excellence. 22 years of proven industrial results. It wasn't subtle. It was truth wrapped in professional language, and it worked. The next message from Harold Morrison wasn't just curious small talk. It was pointed. Off the record, how stable is the operational leadership there? Some concerns have been raised by our portfolio review committee. I stared at that message for a full 10 minutes. Then I took a deep breath and started telling the truth. Carefully, professionally, one fact at a time. All hands meetings at Innovate Tech meant exactly that. All hands on deck to support whatever new buzzword Austin had discovered that week while the actual work got done around him. It was Friday morning, 10:15 a.m., and we were already 15 minutes into Austin's weekly sermon about digital transformation and Industry 4.0 synergy. He was in rare form today, pacing like a motivational speaker who'd had too much coffee. "We're not just manufacturing components," he declared, arms gesturing at slides full of corporate buzzwords. "We're manufacturing the future of industrial automation." I glanced around the room. Half the staff were checking their phones. The other half had that glazed look of people who'd heard this speech 12 times with different PowerPoint backgrounds. "Some folks around here seem more focused on building their personal brand than building this company," he said, eyes scanning the Zoom grid like a principal looking for troublemakers. "I won't name names. You know who you are." The silence that followed felt like a gear grinding to a halt. Everyone saw it. Nobody moved. I didn't flinch, didn't look up from the production reports I was reviewing, but inside, something clicked into place. That comment wasn't random. It was targeted. A few of my recent LinkedIn posts had gained unexpected traction. My update about silent knowledge drain in manufacturing got 28 likes from people with titles like Operations Director and Industrial Investment Partner. Another post about leadership that listens versus leadership that lectures had been shared by someone from our Series B investor group. I never mentioned the company name, never called anyone out specifically, but Austin had radar for anything that might threaten his narrative, and I'd apparently set off every alarm he had. The meeting ended with the usual motivational speech about being one team and disrupting the status quo together. Half the staff nodded with dead eyes. The other half were already mentally checking out. I closed the laptop, and there it was. A new message from Patricia Kellerman, managing director at Steel City Industrial Partners, the fund that had pumped $3.1 million into our Series B round. I'd seen her name on quarterly reports, but never expected direct contact. "Your recent posts demonstrate exactly the kind of operational thinking we value. Would you be open to a brief conversation? No agenda, just interested in your perspective on manufacturing leadership." I stared at it for 60 seconds. Patricia Kellerman wasn't just any fund manager. She was a former VP of operations at General Electric who'd moved into private equity. When she talked about manufacturing operations, people listened. I drafted a simple reply. "Happy to connect. Let me know what works for your schedule. Professional, measured, giving nothing away." Then I looked out the window at the Pittsburgh skyline and realized something had fundamentally shifted. I'd spent 22 years building this place's operational foundation, watching younger guys get promotions for my innovations, watching bonuses get reallocated while I pulled 60-hour weeks to keep everything running, watching Austin take credit for process improvements I'd designed before he even knew what an operations manual looked like. The latest example still burned. 3 months ago, I'd redesigned our entire quality control workflow, reducing defect rates from 3.2% to 1.1% and saving us $85,000 in rework costs quarterly. Austin presented it to the board as his operational excellence initiative without mentioning my name once. Now, one of the people who funded his startup was asking for my insights. Not because I was loud or political, but because they recognized competence when they saw it. My phone buzzed. A Slack message from Danny Morrison in quality control. No relation to Harold Morrison, the investor, just coincidentally the same last name. Great work on that client retention this quarter, Bob. Real team effort, damage control. Someone had probably mentioned that I looked less than enthusiastic during the meeting. They had no idea what was coming. That weekend I went dark on social media. Didn't post, didn't comment. Just let the digital waters settle while I thought through what was really happening here. Austin was clearly watching my LinkedIn activity. The investors were clearly paying attention to my professional insights. And somewhere in the middle, I was building something that didn't require anyone's permission. Monday morning, I made one small change to my profile. My headline now read, "Helping manufacturing leaders see what their operations teams already know. Subtle. Sharp. Let them figure out what that meant." The first call with Patricia Kellerman was scheduled for 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. Late enough to avoid office gossip, early enough to seem professional. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of a diner near my house, windows cracked, trying to ignore the voice in my head, saying I was about to blow up 22 years of steady employment for a 20-minute conversation with someone I'd never met. When Patricia's voice came through the phone, it wasn't the sharp corporate tone I'd expected. It was warm, direct, the voice of someone who'd spent real time in real operations before moving to the investment side. "I know this is unusual," she said, "but I've learned to pay attention when someone signals through the noise rather than adding to it." I laughed before I could stop myself. I wasn't trying to signal anything. "Then you're even better at this than I thought." What followed wasn't an interview or an interrogation. It was a conversation about manufacturing, leadership, and how companies lose their way between startup energy and sustainable growth. I didn't bash anyone or air dirty laundry. I just described the reality, how decisions got made based on who spoke loudest in meetings, how institutional knowledge was being dismissed as legacy thinking, how the team that actually made things work was slowly burning out under layers of innovation theater. "Give me a specific example," Patricia said. Last month, Austin wanted to implement a new inventory management system he'd read about in Harvard Business Review, something about just-in-time optimization for the digital age. The vendor quoted us $180,000 for setup and training, and I showed him how we could achieve the same results by tweaking our existing system, something I'd been recommending for 8 months. Total cost, $12,000 in software updates and 2 weeks of staff training. We implemented it, improved inventory turnover by 23%, and saved the company $168,000. How was that received? Austin announced it at the next board meeting as his innovative cost reduction initiative. My name wasn't mentioned. Patricia was quiet for a moment. "In your professional opinion, is the operational foundation stable enough to support the growth projections they've been presenting to investors?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. The foundation is solid because it's been built over decades by people who understand manufacturing. But foundations need maintenance and respect. When you treat experience as obsolete instead of leveraging it, you're not innovating. You're gambling with other people's money. That's exactly what we needed to hear. For the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy for valuing competence over chaos. The next day, I started accepting more coffee meetings, former colleagues who'd moved to other companies, industry contacts I'd built over 2 decades, a few more investor conversations that came through mutual connections, all framed the same way. Professional curiosity, no hidden agenda. And I gave them context. Not gossip or complaints, just high-level perspective on what it looked like when operational expertise got sidelined by startup enthusiasm. I even found myself defending Austin more than I expected. "He's not incompetent," I told Jim Kowalski, who ran operations for a $500 million industrial firm and had reached out after seeing my LinkedIn activity. "He's just young and hasn't learned that not everything needs to be disrupted. Sometimes the old way works because it's been tested by reality. You know what you are? Jim said. You're what I call a quiet builder. Some guys make noise and call it progress. People like you make things that actually work. I wrote that phrase down. Quiet builder. That was exactly right. Over the next 2 weeks, my network expanded in ways I hadn't expected. A former client who'd moved to a competitor asked about my availability for consulting work. A manufacturing executive from Cleveland wanted to discuss operational leadership opportunities in his organization. Most interesting was a call from Thomas Collins, managing partner at Industrial Growth Partners, who had apparently been asking questions about Innovate Tech's operational stability. We've been watching your company for a potential additional investment, Thomas told me during a brief coffee meeting downtown. Your LinkedIn posts have been illuminating. They demonstrate exactly the kind of operational thinking we look for. I appreciate that. Between you and me, we're concerned about leadership depth there. Young CEOs are great for vision, but manufacturing companies need operational backbone. Companies that lose their experienced operations, people usually lose their way pretty quickly. He wasn't wrong. I'd seen it happen to competitors who'd pushed out their veteran staff in favor of fresh perspectives and agile thinking. 6 months later, they were dealing with quality issues, client complaints, and cost overruns that could have been prevented by someone who understood how manufacturing actually worked. That weekend, I updated my LinkedIn again. 22 years of turning operational challenges into manufacturing solutions. Quiet builder of sustainable systems. I wasn't overthinking it anymore because I was starting to understand something they didn't. The more visible I became to people outside Innovate Tech, the less they could pretend my contributions didn't matter inside it. I wasn't just updating my profile. I was building an external validation system that didn't require their permission or approval, and the people who controlled the money were paying attention. The post that finally triggered everything was simple, factual, and completely professional. In high-growth manufacturing environments, stability often depends not on innovation cycles, but on institutional knowledge. Silent contributors eventually become invisible ones, until they're gone. Within 2 hours, it had likes from 5 investment partners, 3 former clients, and someone listed simply as Industrial Strategy Advisor. The engagement was unlike anything I'd posted before. Then came the comment that changed everything, from an account with no photo and minimal details. Sounds like someone's got their resume ready. Hope the right people don't see this. Anonymous, cowardly, and obviously from inside the building, but more telling were the people who responded to that comment. Patricia Kellerman replied directly, "The right people are always looking for operational excellence. That's how sustainable businesses are built." Harold Morrison added, "Institutional knowledge is the foundation of manufacturing success. Companies that don't recognize that tend to learn expensive lessons." These weren't random comments. These were the people who'd funded Austin's operation, publicly defending the value I brought to the table. The message was clear. They valued operational competence over startup theater. By the next morning, the atmosphere at work had changed. Conversations stopped when I walked by. Slack channels went quiet when I joined them. And at 11:30 a.m., my calendar pinged with a meeting request that made my stomach tighten. Quick sync, Austin CEO, urgent. I knew exactly what was coming. I walked into Austin's office calmly, sat down across from his glass desk with its single MacBook and motivational books about exponential growth, and waited. He didn't look up immediately, too busy performing the theater of being busy. When he finally leaned back, arms folded in that posture that screamed, "I'm about to give you coaching disguised as criticism," I knew exactly where this was headed. "Bob," he said, voice artificially calm. "I've noticed you've been pretty active online lately." I said nothing. Let the silence do the work. Some of the leadership team has flagged a few things. People are getting the impression you might be exploring options. "What kind of options?" I asked. "All innocence." He laughed without humor. "Come on, you've been around long enough to know what I mean. Updating LinkedIn, making those posts, connecting with investors. Are you shopping yourself around?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I never said I was shopping myself around." He blinked, then smiled like someone who just realized he'd stepped into quicksand. "Well," he said, sitting up straighter, "just remember who gave you the opportunity to build your career here. That one hit exactly wrong. The opportunity. Like 22 years of 60-hour weeks and saved contracts and process innovations had been some kind of charity case. I nodded politely. I remember everything, Austin. Every project, every save, every improvement, all documented. The conversation ended with him suggesting I focus more on internal collaboration and less on external networking. I left his office knowing exactly what was coming next. The rumor reached me Thursday evening through a text from Danny Morrison in Quality Control. Heads up, heard Austin talking to HR about cultural alignment and performance concerns. Might want to watch your back. I wasn't surprised. I was ready. Friday morning, I was cleaning up some paperwork when my phone rang. Austin again, but this time his voice had that artificial corporate smoothness that meant lawyers had been involved. Bob, we need you to come in for a meeting. Please bring your badge and any company property. The HR office felt smaller than usual with Austin, the HR director, and someone I didn't recognize sitting behind the conference table like a tribunal. The stranger introduced himself as company counsel, always a bad sign. This is difficult, Austin began, reading from notes, but we've decided to make some organizational changes. Your position is being eliminated as part of our strategic realignment. Strategic realignment. Corporate speak for, we're firing you, but don't want to say why. Your recent social media activity suggests you may not be fully aligned with our company mission and values, the lawyer added. I almost laughed. After 22 years of perfect performance reviews, they were firing me because my LinkedIn posts demonstrated too much competence. I'd like to see the specific policy violations, I said calmly. They exchanged glances. The HR director shuffled papers. It's more about overall cultural fit and maintaining team cohesion, I see. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and sent a text to Patricia Kellerman, terminated today. Cultural alignment cited, available to discuss opportunities whenever convenient. Then I looked at Austin. You know what the real problem is? You're not firing me because I don't fit the culture. You're firing me because I remember what the culture used to be when this place actually worked. I handed over my badge, walked to my desk, and packed 22 years into a cardboard box. Plant, coffee mug, the safety award from 2019 when we went 400 days without an incident. 3 photos of process improvements that had saved the company $1.3 million total. Nobody said goodbye because nobody knew what to say. They just watched me walk out the door, carrying the institutional knowledge they didn't think they needed. I got to my truck and checked my phone. Patricia Kellerman had already replied, "Free this afternoon? We should talk. 2 hours. That's all it took." I was sitting in a booth at Primanti Broas, picking at a sandwich I wasn't really hungry for, when my phone started buzzing. First a text from Danny. "Something's happening." Austin just canceled all afternoon meetings and locked himself in the conference room with 3 guys in expensive suits. Then another from Lisa in accounting. Heard from my contact at Steel City Industrial. They're asking detailed questions about operational continuity and knowledge transfer protocols. At 3:47, the hammer dropped. Danny sent me a screenshot of an email that had gone to all department heads. Due to unexpected concerns raised by our investment partners regarding operational stability and leadership succession planning, we are conducting an immediate review of all Series B funding commitments. All expenditures above $10,000 are frozen pending further notice. I stared at it, not with satisfaction, but with the quiet certainty that truth had finally found its voice. I hadn't sabotaged anything. I'd just stopped pretending that competence didn't matter. My phone rang. Patricia Kellerman's number. "Bob, I want you to know that our board meeting yesterday was very illuminating. We have serious concerns about operational continuity given recent personnel decisions. I can imagine. We'd like to discuss bringing you on as an operational advisor for our manufacturing portfolio companies. Interested?" I looked out the window at the city where I'd spent my entire career, building things that actually worked, the place where I'd learned that steady hands and clear thinking still mattered. Very interested. Excellent. "Oh, and Bob? That $480,000 client contract you saved? They called us this morning asking if your departure affects their relationship with Innovate Tech. Apparently, they were under the impression that you were the primary relationship manager. 3 days later, the announcement came through industry channels. Pittsburgh Steel Capital and Steel City Industrial Partners were reassessing their investment strategy for Innovate Tech Solutions, citing concerns about operational leadership continuity and institutional knowledge retention. Austin's LinkedIn went quiet. The company's quarterly update got pushed back indefinitely. I started my new role Monday morning, helping evaluate manufacturing companies for potential investment. Companies that understood the difference between innovation and disruption. Companies that valued the people who actually made things work. My first assignment was reviewing a young manufacturing automation startup for potential funding. Ambitious leadership, lots of energy, big plans. I knew exactly what questions to ask.